And welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Because welcome's a podcast thing.
So, this is Behind the Sofa.
Live!
Our first live Behind the Sofa, which didn't involve us opening boxes.
Yeah, because we did do that.
We did.
Episode a couple of weeks ago, if you remember that. We haven't done a Behind the Sofa for 2 weeks, so we thought, how can we make Behind the Sofa a bit different? If you think Behind the Sofa's too long, or if you think I've never watched that episode, well, now it's changing for Series 9, because as well as the podcast, we will give an overview here on the story overall. So we'll give individual episode reviews on the podcast, and we'll give like overviews on here.
Just try and cut that light out there. Is that working? No, just a little bit light. There you are. If you move over a little bit into the central. There we go.
So we are about to do a podcast in a minute where we will review The Witch is Familiar.
We will indeed.
And later on we're watching Under the Lake.
We are.
This is just a full overview, a quick little overview review about what we thought on the story overall.
Yes. I just noticed on the video, at the moment it looks like you're all the sort of angelic ones. You've got this beam of light shining down over you. And then your evil dad.
No, you're not evil.
So, same sort of format as what we've used for Behind the Sofa in the past. But we start off with a brief description of the story.
So,
and then we'll follow that up with some specific questions and thoughts.
Yeah, and if you want to tune into a full account, then you could either watch last week's podcast or the podcast that's just about to go on air. So, and
our intention will be, correct me if I'm wrong,
to
do one of these Behind the Sofa live shows for every story in the series.
That doesn't necessarily mean every week, but every two weeks when there's a new story. So in 2 weeks we'll do like an Under the Lake Before the Flood one.
Yeah.
So, where is the Doctor? When the skies of Earth are frozen by a mysterious alien force, Clara needs her friend, and survival seems impossible. Trapped and alone, will the Doctor be able to resist his greatest temptation?
Entices you in, eh?
It does.
Are you enticed?
Yeah. I hope you are.
Have you seen it? Did you watch it?
If you have watched it, then let us know what you thought below, because we might even read some of them out on the podcast.
We may do. If you haven't watched it, you better go and watch it quickly, because otherwise we're going to spoil it for you.
Yeah.
Because we'll probably mention a few things that would be spoilers for those who haven't seen it.
So turn off now. It's spoiler alert. And if you don't know, it says original in the title. That means because we're going to do 2 versions, we're going to do one which has edited and with pictures and all that
fun stuff going on. So if you're not, you might be watching it live, you might be watching it an edited version later. Regardless, we're happy you're here.
Yes.
It's lovely to see you. So, what did you make of this epic episode then? So it's the first story in this new series.
Now, we've got different opinions on this, haven't we?
On certain bits of it, I think we've got a general overall agreement.
We've got an overall general agreement that this story is amazing. That this story felt like a finale instead of an opener, and it enticed you into the whole of the rest of the season. But at the same time, you prefer part 2, don't you? I'm in 2 different minds. I'm unsure. I slightly prefer part 1, but that's just my opinion.
The reason I like part 2 more, and I'll come on to this a little bit more when we start talking about some of the specific questions, but I love dialogue.
Yeah.
I love it when you get characters talking to each other.
And spoiler alert, the Doctor and Davros had a long face-off.
They did. Who had the longer face? Do you think?
And then he put on his Sonic sunglasses.
Yeah. So we've got loads of new things, actually. In fact, there's loads to talk about with this episode.
There is.
We're going to try and keep it to about 20 minutes.
Because we've got full review on the podcast if you want to listen to that. That'll be slightly longer, probably.
And plus, because your mum says you talk too long.
She might be listening now.
So, and she'll say...
Watching.
It's too long.
Yes.
So, first of all then, let's get our usual roundup of setting the scene. Who is the Doctor, if we didn't already know?
The Doctor is Peter Capaldi.
So, second series of Peter Capaldi in the lead role.
No, and how good was he? Definitely in part 2. I like his Darker Edge because it's a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
The only bit I didn't like in part 1 was the bit when the Doctor was sort of introducing sort of slang words to the past, and he was sort of going a bit mad. The tank guitar scene I don't mind. I know you dislike that scene a lot, but the tank and the guitar and the tank scene, it's quite fun, quite a grand entrance, but at the same time it went on for too long.
I think because for those that have seen it, there is that sort of in the first story. The first time we really see the Doctor properly after the intro is when he arrives, when Clara and Missy are both looking for him, and all of a sudden he appears playing. I can't remember what he's playing now, but he's sort of like playing some meaty hooks on his guitar on a tank, and it is probably as grand an entrance as you can ever get. It's, part of me did think that's very funny. It's a real big entrance. It's as OTT as you can imagine.
It is quite OTT, and I don't usually like OTT things because the Russell T Davies era sometimes irritated me. Not saying I didn't like all of the Russell T Davies era. Some great ones in there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it may have even been better than the Stephen Moffat era, but not at most points.
Yeah, it definitely has more OTT-ness.
It does.
In
RTD.
In RTD.
Yeah.
RTD, OTT.
It's sort of more family friendly.
Yeah. But I think, so part of me thought, yeah, that's really grand. And part of me just thought, wow, a little bit cringy. But that's me.
Yeah.
What did you actually make of Peter Capaldi generally?
Peter Capaldi, he was great in this story. As I was starting to say that, as I said, he was a little more... I like his darker edge, so I preferred him in Witch is Familiar. Mm-hmm. I preferred Magician's Apprentice as an episode, but the Doctor, I preferred him in Witch is Familiar, and also there's that great scene in the chair, which we'll go on to a bit later.
Yeah. So, to me, Peter Capaldi, within we're probably actually about halfway through his first series, immediately jumped up to being my second favourite Doctor after Tom Baker. It's difficult to beat Tom Baker because Tom Baker is, let's face it, Tom Baker is the Doctor.
In capital letters.
The Doctor. But Peter Capaldi's got a lot of Tom Baker about him.
Yeah,
while still bringing his own ness about it. His own take on it. And I was immediately won over. I know not everybody was.
No, some people thought he's too dark. He's too like Colin Baker, which we personally think Colin Baker's a tiny bit underrated. But people are starting to feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
At the moment, but we personally don't mind him.
We like Colin Baker.
We like all the Doctors.
We do, but we like that sort of darker edge, don't we?
We do. If you haven't guessed.
Yeah. And actually, if I had a concern about this series, it was those initial bits of dialogue that seemed to be coming through that this wasn't going to be quite as dark.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I like the dark stuff.
I do too. That's why I was thinking, I was anticipating this series more than I was before Series 8 because I thought Series 8 was... I didn't used to like the dark things, but now I do. I
think the good thing about it is 2 stories in, and who knows what else comes through from this series, but from two two episodes in, sorry,
Yeah.
what is apparent is that they've got a really good balance between humour and darkness.
And I think the one tonight, Under the Lake Before the Flood's, going to be a bit darker because of the ghosts and everything. So we'll review that over the next couple of weeks on both this and podcast.
So we know that the Doctor is Peter Capaldi. Who's the companion in this story?
Clara. But you can also say Missy, kind of.
I think you can, yeah. I think you can say
it's a bit different.
Yeah. It's Missy, for those who don't know, is the reincarnation of the Master in
Dark Water,
lady
Death
form.
and Heaven spoilers.
Yeah.
But everyone should have watched that by now.
Yeah.
That was like almost a year ago.
Yeah. So we know that, but in this one is a little bit different than last time we saw her, because this time she's sort of a companion, isn't she?
Is.
She's
sort
also
of like
trying to find the Doctor.
Twist on a companion, like a bit different to Turlough, I suppose. But Turlough was a bit of a twist on a companion.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to ever talk about Turlough. He's sort of forgotten a little bit.
But we like him, don't we, Turlough?
He's my favourite companion for the Fifth Doctor. Not ever, but for the Fifth Doctor. But still, I find the TARDIS is a bit too cramped in that era.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
With annoying teenagers.
But in this instance, we don't really. It's not too cramped, is it? Because we've just got.
And hopefully, we won't see that in class.
So, what do you make of not Missy? What do you make of Clara in the story?
Clara. She sort of seeks adventure a bit more.
Yeah.
In this series, I know she will. She's good. She wasn't as important as she was in Series 9. It's Series 8.
Yeah, not yet anyway, is it?
Not yet, but if Clara dies or Clara leaves, we haven't heard the rumour, which we're hiding from. What was I going to say? This is the problem with live episodes. You always forget.
I forget when we're recording it.
You could just edit it out.
Yeah, I forget anyway. Well, moving on then a little bit. The other questions we always ask ourselves on Behind the Sofa is, what series is it?
It's obvious, Series 9.
And what format is it?
2 parts.
2 parts. So let's get into the meat. We have a number of standard questions we ask. One of them is best baddie.
We have to say Davros.
Yeah.
He returns in this story.
And also, he's brilliant, isn't he?
He is.
The way that he was played, I can't remember the name of the actor now, because I'm rubbish at
Julian
names.
Bleach.
Julian Bleach. How good was he?
I know.
He had that particularly.
It was amazing.
What I loved about him was that the way that he played that sort of barely dying, very weak, but he still had that edge to him, didn't he? And then, as the story progressed, and you started to believe that actually there was some good in Davros, and as he was approaching the end of his life, he found
out he was bad.
He found out he was dying, didn't he? And you sort of got that impression that as he was dying, perhaps he saw some sort of good, and there was that great bit of dialogue between him and the Doctor when he was talking about wanting to find the Doctor to sort of keep his race alive.
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, he turns out to be a baddie after all.
That was a bit. It wasn't really a shock that he turned out to be a baddie. But it was quite an emotional sequence when he opened his eyes and everything for the first time.
But it was great, wasn't it? That sort of jump from that really weak Davros. That Davros that when he was talking to the Doctor at one point, there was the two of them laughing, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And it was a really nice moment. And then it turned out all along he was just trying to play the Doctor for a fool.
Yeah.
Albeit that it sort of gets turned on its head a little bit. But the way that the actor played Davros was absolutely fantastic.
I know. Fantastic in the Ninth Doctor's words.
In fact, I would go as far to say, aside from Genesis of the Dalek, which Genesis of the Daleks, it's probably the best.
I agree.
The best.
I agree. The second best Davros episode ever. Well, it can't beat Genesis.
No.
Never.
Who knows? Maybe it will happen one day.
Maybe it will happen one day, but never Genesis.
Okay, so of the 2 parts, part 1 and part 2.
We said we differed
We
earlier.
did. So
I say part 1, you say part 2. It's quite a hard choice for me. The more I thought about part 2, the more I enjoyed it. I'll say that.
I think the thing was, if you remember rightly, when I came round and we were talking about the first episode,
Yeah.
I'd said how much I'd enjoyed it, but there was a number of things that just annoyed me a little bit.
Yeah.
About it, wasn't there?
The thing that I noticed about part 2 is when we come to the podcast later, when we ask about the bad bits, I'm going to struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there was anything bad about part 2. I thought part 2 was a perfect episode.
I do too, but I still prefer part 1 slightly.
Yeah. Maybe part of that is just because you had that whole excitement about Doctor Who returning.
Yeah,
as well.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Comment below on what you preferred.
Also, comment below if you knew why both episodes were called what they were called.
Yeah, why were they called Magician's Apprentice, Witch's Familiar?
I don't know. I've no idea.
Who's the magician? Who's the magician's obviously the Doctor, but who's his apprentice?
Do you think that what actually happened was that Stephen Moffat got all these scripts in? Some of them he'd written himself, others he'd got other writers in, and then he had a list of words that he randomly threw into like a bucket, and they pulled the words out randomly and attached them to it. So you could have got sort of like
under no raven.
It could have been like that, yeah.
Under no
random.
raven.
Yeah, we'll call it that.
Hell Familiar Lake. Hell Familiar Lake.
Hell Familiar Lake. Sounds like a good episode.
Yeah, Hell Familiar Lake.
So, but yeah, it was. I couldn't get my head around that at all. But there we have it. So there we have it. That's the best parts.
Best
supporting cast. What do you think?
2 for me.
Yeah.
Michelle Gomez or Julian Bleach.
Okay, we've talked a little bit about Julian Bleach, haven't we, insofar as his Davros.
Yeah.
What do we think then of Michelle Gomez and Missy?
Missy. She was developed a lot from series 9, and I thought people liked her a bit more. Most people. Someone on the fan show we were watching a minute ago said that Missy was pointless, but no, I think she had a point. She had a use. She just wasn't the main baddie.
I really like the way Michelle Gomez plays Missy,
and how she's a bit different in this story.
What I think is really good about her is there's some times where she borders on being really irritating and borders on you sort of thinking, why is she here? I hate her. But somehow she always just has this little twist on it, which actually makes you think, but she's great.
She is.
And there's some superb moments on her, isn't it? Where that, although she's very funny, she adds a lot of humour to both stories. There's also times where, despite that humour, there's a real evil edge to it. Particularly with this one, that scene right near the end where Clara's encased in the Dalek.
Oh, I like that moment.
And Missy is trying to tell the Doctor that Dalek was the one that killed Clara. Clara, sorry. And
luckily you didn't say who Dara is.
Yeah, that's your fault. And as a result of that, you know, it just shows that real sort of dark edge that sort of sits with her. Yeah.
Okay.
Best bit.
Best Alcatraz. That's your fault.
That's my fault.
Best bit.
Best bit. You go first. What's your favourite bit? Over both episodes.
Can I say 2?
Yeah.
Can I say 1 from each episode?
Say 1 from
My favourite from part 1 was that opening scene when the Doctor said, "What's the name of the boy who's going to live?" And then the boy said, "Davros. My name is Davros."
And that's it.
He didn't say Davros, but he said Davros.
But that was really good, wasn't it?
It was.
Although I mean, both of us had actually read that somewhere, or we'd heard it just before the episode, so it wasn't as big a shock as perhaps it would have been nice to have had a bigger shock.
Me too. And Clara when Clara was encased in the Dalek was my favourite bit from part 2.
Okay, my favourite bits. I think I was trying to think now. Did I write them both down on there? I can remember what I thought for one of them.
Part 1 and part 2. Do you want?
Part 2. I'll do my part 2 one first because I can remember what that is. I loved the bit when the Doctor came in the Davros, riding his Dalek machine.
Yeah.
And he made some. I can't remember the exact wording,
moment.
but he made some comment along the lines of. Can you remember the exact line? Don't pretend that you haven't had nightmares about this or something like that.
Yeah,
and it was the fact that he was standing there waving that Dalek gun at the same time.
Yeah.
I just thought that was brilliant because whilst it had a sort of dark edge, it was really, really funny.
And that's what Peter Capaldi can do. He can make something funny dark.
Yeah. And also, of course, the other...
Or vice versa.
Probably, actually, however much I love that bit, that's probably the second best bit. The best bit had to be just that whole dialogue between the Doctor and Davros, which was at times funny, at times moving, at times scary, but always captivating. Yeah.
Should we stop there?
So that's probably everything that we need to go through. There was also the very funny line about the only chair on Skara.
Yeah, the only chair.
Which is very good. So in terms of on Behind the Sofa, we have a little chart of as we're watching or rewatching episodes, we've started to list them together. Where at the moment, based on the ones we've watched on Behind the Sofa and reviewed on Behind the Sofa, where does this sit?
First. So this doesn't count the ones we've watched on the podcast. So it doesn't count Genesis yet or Case for Antizani. Even though we slightly prefer this than Case. We may disagree, but
it was really good, wasn't it? Really good. Probably, I think we both agreed, probably the best opening series we've had with New Who.
Opening episode, yeah.
Yeah. And it tops my chart at the moment as well.
Too.
It's not my favourite Doctor Who episode ever.
No, it isn't.
But it would be there punching into somewhere near the top, I think.
Yeah.
Because it was really well made and looked visually stunning.
It did.
Didn't it? It had a sort of movie-like quality to it.
It did.
If you haven't watched it, sorry about spoiling it, but you definitely should view it.
Yes, it's a recommended watch. We'll be back here. Make sure you tune in to our full Witches Familiar review in a few minutes. But make sure you also tune in 2 weeks' time when we're going to be reviewing Under the Lake and Before a Flood.
So thanks for watching Behind the Sofa. We'll see you soon.
Bye!